Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to CS492F, Futures of the World. We are here to listen to the second part of the contribution on topic B on the future of geopolitics and governments, which has been prepared by Taehyun Ki, by Dongyeong Kim, and by Yeonu Cho. So that being said, Taehyun, Yeonu, Dongyeong, can you turn on your video and tell us who is going to give today's presentation? Yes?
Okay. Hello, we are Team B. Following the last session, I would like to talk about governance in the future. Sorry. Do you know what governance is? Governance is a new way of running state affairs in which various actors, such as corporations and non-governmental organizations, set up a new network common interest to solve problems. Moving away from unilateral governance networks. Since 1918, various alternatives have been proposed to effectively serve social problems, and governance is one of them. In fact, the word governance is very abstract and covers a wide range. Today, we are going to talk about three governance that will exist in the future. The first is AI governance. 2023 is the year when news of the launch of a new AI service that will surprise everyone. The AI model that is currently leading in innovation in ChatGPT. In the process of building large-scale learning data by these governance models, AI, many works are copied and transmitted, and personal information is collected and used. And in this process, copywriting, in infringement, unauthorized collection, and use of personal information are problematic because permission from copyright holders or data subjects cannot be obtained. In addition to these legal challenges, all nations in which generative models of the first information in past sentences are another problem. Let's watch a video about the effect of AI.
In the coming years, artificial intelligence is probably going to change your life, and likely the entire world. But people have a hard time agreeing on exactly how. The following are excerpts from a World Economic Forum interview where renowned computer science professor and AI expert Stuart Russell helps separate the sense from the nonsense.
There's a big difference between asking a human to do something and giving that as the objective to an AI system. When you ask a human to fetch you a cup of coffee, you don't mean this should be their life.
Expert Stuart Russell helps separate the sense.
When you ask a human to fetch you a cup of coffee, you don't don't mean this should be their life's mission and nothing else in the universe matters. Even if they have to kill everybody else in Starbucks to get you the coffee before it closes, they should do that. No, that's not what you mean. Right? You mean all the other things that we mutually care about, they should factor into your behavior as well. And the problem with the way we build AI systems now is we give them a fixed objective, right? The algorithms require us to specify everything in the objective. And if you say, can we fix the acidification of the oceans? Yeah, you could have a catalytic reaction that does that extremely efficiently, but consumes a quarter of the oxygen in the atmosphere, which would apparently cause us to die fairly slowly and unpleasantly over the course of several hours. So how do we avoid this problem, right? You might say, okay, well, just be more careful about specifying the objective, right? Don't forget the atmospheric oxygen. And then, of course, some side effect of the reaction in the ocean poisons all the fish. Okay, well, I meant don't kill the fish either. And then, well, what about the seaweed? Okay, well, don't do anything that's going to cause all the seaweed to die. And on and on and on, right? And the reason that we don't have to do that with humans is that humans often know that they don't know all the things that we care about. If you ask a human to get you a cup of coffee, and you happen to be in the Hotel Georges V in Paris, where the coffee is, I think, 13 euros a cup, it's entirely reasonable to come back and say, well, it's 13 euros. Are you sure you want, or I could go next door and, get one. And it's a perfectly normal thing for a person to do, right? To ask, I'm going to repaint your house. Is it okay if I take off the drain pipes and then put them back? We don't think of this as a terribly sophisticated capability, but AI systems don't have it because the way we build them now, they have to know the full objective. If we build systems that know that they don't know what the objective is, then they start to exhibit these behaviors, like asking permission before getting rid of all the oxygen in the atmosphere. In all these senses, control over the AI system comes from the machine's uncertainty about what the true objective is. And it's when you build machines that believe with certainty that they have the objective, that's when you get the sort of psychopathic behavior. And I think we see the same thing in humans. What happens when general purpose AI hits the real economy? How do things change? Can we adapt? This is a very old point. Amazingly, Aristotle actually has a passage where he says, look, if we had fully automated weaving machines and plectrums that could pluck the lyre and produce music without any humans, then we wouldn't need any workers. That idea, which I think it was Keynes who called it technological unemployment in 1930, is very obvious to people, right? They think, yeah, of course, if the machine does the work, then I'm going to be unemployed. If you think about the warehouses that companies are currently operating for e-commerce, they are half automated. The way it works is that an old warehouse where you've got tons of stuff piled up all over the place and the humans go and rummage around and then bring it back and send it off, there's a robot who goes and gets the shelving unit that contains the thing that you need, but the human has to pick the object out of the bin or off the shelf because that's still too difficult. But, at the same time, could you make a robot that is accurate enough to be able to pick pretty much any object, and there's a very wide variety of objects that you can buy, and that would, at a stroke, eliminate 3 or 4 million jobs. There's an interesting story that E.M. Forster wrote where everyone is entirely machine dependent. The story is really about the fact that if you hand over the management of your civilization to machines, you then lose the incentive to understand it yourself or to teach the next generation how to understand it. And you can see Wall-E actually as a modern version where everyone is enfeebled and infantilized by the machine. And that hasn't been possible up to now, right? We put a lot of our civilization into books, but the books can't run it for us. And so we always have to teach the next generation. If you work it out, it's about 1 trillion person years of teaching and learning and an unbroken chain that goes back tens of thousands of generations. What happens if that chain breaks? And I think that's something we have to understand as AI moves forward. The actual date of arrival of general purpose AI, you're not going to be able to pinpoint, right? It isn't a single day. It's also not the case it's all or nothing. The impact is going to be increasing. So with every advance in AI, it significantly expands the range of tasks. So in that sense, I think most experts say by the end of the century, we're very, very likely to have general purpose AI. The median is something around 2045. I'm a little more on the conservative side. I think the problem is harder than we think. I like what John McCarthy, who was sort of one of the founders of AI, when he was asked this question, he said, well, somewhere between 5 and 500 years, and we're going to need, I think, several Einsteins to make it happen.
But how will the economy change in the meantime? Will it be able to keep growing? Watch this video.
So, how can we respond to the potential risk that the use of AI systems poses to individuals and society? One of the options is AI governance. AI governance creates organization and procedures to proactively access the intent risk of AI systems and to systemically manage them. In other words, AI governance is the establishment of rules and procedures for the development, use and impact of AI, which aims to ensure it is beneficial, safe, and responsible for human use. AI governance solutions include establishing ethical principles for AI and ensuring the safety and security of AI systems, preventing bias of AI systems, ensuring responsible use of AI systems, and evaluating the social impact of AI systems. Let's watch the related video together.
Artificial intelligence is a general purpose technology. Many people have relied on historical analogies like electricity to explain what that means. So essentially, it's a kind of a tool that we can layer lots of different functions on top of. So like electricity enabled us to see indoors, it allowed us to stay up later, it allowed us to become more efficient in manufacturing. The analogy is used to describe what artificial intelligence might provide us going forward. And whether or not it's the next electricity, in fact, some might suggest it's more akin to something like a natural disaster, an earthquake, or a fire, which we can't control. Others think that turning on and off AI is an important capability for governance going forward. So what do policymakers need to do, and how can they prepare to make sure that we allow our engineers and experts to innovate, but also protect our citizens, their privacy and their safety? There are 4 steps I'm recommending that policymakers consider going forward. First, develop a trusted network of experts who can help identify new developments in AI technologies. Number 2, create strategies flexible enough to accommodate those shifts when, for example, computing power or algorithmic quality improves. Number 3, identify specific AI applications in most need of governance frameworks. And 4, make sure international governance frameworks are consistent with the national regulations that you're putting together. And so if we start now developing standards for how we want these technologies to develop, we'll be ready and sure that we've done all we can to make sure that our children and grandchildren are using technologies that we want them to be using and that are good for our countries and the world.
In order to create government agents in many countries are creating communities, new rules and regulations and frameworks. Several companies are also working with AI solutions by stores, academic institutions, and research centers to identify risks to AI technology. AI governance is becoming more important as AI develops rapidly and the market is growing. According to the study by Grandview Research, the global AI governance market is growing at an average annual rate of 5.6. AI governance can distinguished by industry. In 2022, AI governance market in the government and defense was the largest. Healthcare facilities around the world are using AI systems to identify the disease through the patient voice chip X-ray. The financial sector is also one of the areas AI governance is active. So far, AI ethics principles and AI governance system related to them are in the front of the but we expect them to become stronger in the future. As AI developing, the future of AI governance is approaching. We need to think about what role AI governance play.
Hello everyone. My name is Taeyong Ki, and I am going to talk about space exploration and its governance. First, let's talk about the history of space exploration. The space exploration began in 1957 when the Soviet Union launched Sputnik 1, which is the first artificial satellite. It invoked the space race between the US and the Soviet Union. In 1961, Yuri Gagarin became the first human in space. In 1969, the Apollo 11 landed astronauts on the moon. Then in 1990, NASA launched Hubble Space Telescope, which captures some amazing picture of space. In 2012, NASA's Curiosity rover safely landed on Mars. And in 2020, NASA joined with SpaceX to send astronauts to the ISS, which is the International Space Station, by using a spacecraft called Crew Dragon. Then what is the value of space exploration? First, let's watch this video.
July 20th, 1969. There are plenty of... But second, does he have a point? I mean, there are plenty of problems on Earth. Is space exploration really worth the effort? And the cost? Well, if you're like many Americans, the cost is probably a lot less than you think. One famous survey found that Americans estimated that NASA gets about 1/4 of the entire federal budget. And if that were the case, we'd have a Disneyland on Saturn. The actual amount of the federal budget that goes to NASA? Less than 0.5%. In fact, we spend over 15 times more just on interest payments for the national debt. So, the cost? Not as much as you think. And the benefits? Probably way more than you think. Let's start with a pretty basic one. Keeping space from murdering us. Yeah, no space program, no mechanism in place to try to detect planet-killing asteroids. And the security implications go beyond protecting us from homicidal space rocks. It's also a matter of protecting us from our adversaries. The intelligence community reports that the combined Chinese and Russian space fleets grew by 70% just between 2019 and 2021. Part of the reason? Because as that same report notes, China sees the ability to disable American satellites as a way to shut down our use of precision weapons. A strategy designed to, quote, blind and deafen the enemy. Even North Korea has a space program. Though, so far, it's just a guy with a jetpack on a trampoline. And these kinds of national security concerns are one reason we may want to take it a bit easier on the billionaires. After the US ended its space shuttle program in 2011, American astronauts couldn't even get into space unless they traveled on Russian spacecraft, which Vladimir Putin was kind enough to allow, at $86 million a seat. The reason that's come to an end, because now our astronauts can get to space using Elon Musk's SpaceX, which is also likely to have benefits here on Earth. SpaceX hopes to harness the same reusable rockets that send our astronauts to space to someday transport passengers any place in the world in under an hour. They estimate that the trip from New York City to Shanghai will take 39 minutes. So, roughly the length of the safety video. And this wouldn't be the first time that technology designed for space has revolutionized life here on Earth. NASA is a big part of why we have the cameras in our cell phones and the GPS systems. Their technology is central to CAT scans and the methods we use to de-ice planes. Hell, they even provided the gold coating that's used for an Oscar. Okay, don't hold that one against them. The technology involved in heart transplants, cochlear implants, and artificial limbs, from NASA. Enriched baby formula, from NASA. The tech we use to clean up oil spills, NASA. Tang, not from NASA. Please stop saying it is. Bottom line, we don't go to space as a hobby. We go as an investment in our safety, in our technology, and in our future. And yes, we also go to space for the sake of discovery itself, to answer the kinds of questions that captivated our ancestors centuries ago. What's out there? What don't we know? And how exactly do the North Koreans think? July 20.
From this video, you can note that space exploration is worse because it helps protect Earth from the space dangers, and it helps to keep our nation's security, and it helps to develop new technology that can make our life better on the Earth. And let's talk about the asymptotic future of space exploration. Before that, let's watch this short video.
I was growing up in Baltimore, Maryland in the 60s during the space race. I used to stop classes to watch these milestone space missions. I really got the sense of how vital this was.
We are bred to explore. We are going to leave this planet. It's going to happen.
Whether it's the moon, Mars, those are just destinations on the journey. They're not an end unto themselves. If we can put a man on the moon, we can do anything.
I'm optimistic that we are on the right path to do that and to stick with it so that we can put people where we want them.
It may take us 15, 20, 25, 30 years to explore places like Europa and even beyond.
It's innate in us to explore our solar system and potentially the rest of the universe.
We really need to have that global vision to achieve what I think will be humanity's finest hour.
In my prediction, one day we might need to leave Earth because our sun will not last forever, or our planet resources could run out, or the environmental problem can be much serious, and either push us to leave the Earth. So, what have we done so far? We have been to the moon and sent robots to study Mars, and even launched a spacecraft called Voyager 1 that is left our solar system. But can you reach the beyond our solar system? That's a big question. Going to other stars is really tough because they are so far away. To make it happen, we need new technologies like super fast spaceships, or maybe even shortcuts like wormholes. This might sound like science fiction, but history has shown that our big dreams often become reality.
I was growing up in Baltimore.
Let's take a closer look at the limitations of space exploration. First, there is a technological limitations. We've seen remarkable advancements in science and technology in recent years. However, when it comes to space development, we'll need far more advanced technology, and it's not clear if we can achieve that. And next, there is a resource limitation. The closest planet is located 4.24 light years away from Earth, and this distance is so far that it could require a huge amount of time and resources for travel. And last, there is a political issue. As previously explained, the space race is accelerating, and the potential of cooperation in exploration is lowering. And let's talk about the feasibility of space exploration. The key point of the feasibility of space exploration is the governance. It's a crucial component. Then what is the governance? Governance is like a rule book for playing a game, but in the context of space exploration, this system is the system that helps us make decisions and ensure everything runs smoothly. And finally, let's talk about governance for space exploration and its development. First, governance establishes policies and regulations to ensure safe and responsible space activities, including rules for space traffic management and resource utilization. And next, also governance promotes collaboration among different countries and entities involved in space exploration to avoid conflict and to share resources and knowledge. Next, governance supports the participation of private companies in space projects and reducing the financial burden of governments. And governance also supports in the development and check regulations of advanced space technologies. And governance plays a role in developing a skilled workforce for space exploration, ensuring the prepared professionals to handle the challenges of space missions. And next, governance take care of environment and make sure we use resource wisely. And in conclusion, through those effective governance, we can make space exploration more efficient, and by this governance, we can reach our milestones. Thank you.
The governance of new medicines and healthcare system is one of the greatest issues of the rising of the future. As you know, that about a year ago or 2 years ago, like starting from the 2020s, there's been a global pandemic through the world. The COVID-19 was striking all entire humanity. And the problem of that COVID-19 was making affordable vaccines and also affordable treatments and cures. Treatment and cures are very expensive. It was like somewhat the cocktails of the previous cures, but the company takes much money. So if we want to not spread that kind of virus, like the disease come from viruses, we need a vaccine. But the vaccines from the Moderna, especially Moderna's vaccines, were co-developed with the NIH, but the Moderna refused to give the co-authorship to the NIH's scientists. So I will show you a video about this.
The U.S. National Institutes of Health intends to claim co-ownership over Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine patent. That's according to the agency's outgoing director, Dr. Francis Collins, who spoke to Reuters on Wednesday. He said NIH scientists significantly contributed to developing the mRNA vaccine.
I think Moderna has made a serious mistake here in not providing the kind of co-inventorship credit to people who played a major role in the development of the vaccine that they are now making a fair amount of money off of. And we did our best to try to resolve this amicably and ultimately failed. But we are not done.
The New York Times reported earlier this week that Moderna excluded 3 NIH scientists as co-inventors of the multi-billion-dollar COVID-19 vaccine when the company applied for its patent over the summer. In a statement, Moderna acknowledged that the scientists played a substantial role in the vaccine's development, but the company added, quote, "We do not agree that NIH scientists co-invented claims to the mRNA 1273 sequence itself. Only Moderna's scientists came up with the sequence for the mRNA used in our vaccine." Moderna expects nearly $20 billion of sales in 2021 from the COVID-19 vaccine and up to $22 billion next year.
So as you saw this, so the video suggested that the new vaccines are coming from the actually it's coming from the government funding, the massive government funding, like about $500 million of government funding to the Moderna's, and also the BioNTech has got the funding from the German government. But actually, their two companies does not actually obligate somewhat follow the obligatory things inside of the funding. So not only about the vaccines case, because the COVID was very special and inocular, was somewhat very surprising cases of the viruses, but some of the genetic disease, like I don't know how to call, but there's multiple treatments like CAR-T or the Zolgensma to resolve the heart failures, the only heart failures of the young boys or young girls, and the CAR-Ts were somewhat like killing some it might be somewhat related to cancer, but the treatment of the CAR-T cell is about the $373K to $475K per infusion, and the Zolgensma is cost like 1.9 million euros per course of the treatments. And some people need this most of in their life, because it's, if you got this treatment, it will be okay about after your life, but if you didn't, then you will die at early stage, like about 4 or 5 very young age. We know that somewhat the chemical or the pharmaceutical company should have somewhat have the benefit or the gains from the developing this kind of medicine. Of course, they should have, but should they have to get 1.9 million per shot or to retreat the values? Or could we give somewhat government aid to do that? This is somewhat the governance of this kind of medicines. New medicines always arises with somewhat very high rate, very high earning rates. And could we have more humanity to save our humans, not only for just pushing this kind of developing new medicines into the brutal capitalism, but how about just giving some fundings or making socially approachable and to get this kind of treatments to publicly be available. So the US rare disease treatment market is still climbing over and over, because in the recent age, we just saw multiple diseases that that kills people in the past. Like we solved somewhat like tuberculosis. Actually not solved, but anyway, we reduced many people from dying from the tuberculosis, and also some colds, and so also a lot of cancers. We have a very high-tech and fascinating technology to solve these kind of problems. So after Asian age, it's arising that the somewhat disorders and the rare disease treatments are enlarging. So we need to think about it, because if the conditions of the fees of the medicines is like this high, then we can't sustain the universal healthcare system inside of it. So we need to make a governance about the new medicines. How can we do that? Actually, we have no options inside of our hands, but only option that we can handle these medicine companies or these new medicines things is based on government funding, government research and development funding. But the corona's case was not good enough. And the structures of the populations, that the life expectancy is getting higher and higher. This is quite old data, but anyway, the current regime shows that tendency shows that it'll go high and the workforces will go low, because the total fertility rate is going down. That means that we have no power to sustain our universal healthcare systems, like as the NHS or in the Korean healthcare systems, and that is very problematic, because there has many people to get universal healthcare system from the gains from universal healthcare system, but they don't pay the sufficient amount of money to well running about the universal healthcare system. So can the universal healthcare system survive? Well, we actually saw the cases from the NHS. The NHS is the healthcare systems, universal healthcare systems of the United Kingdom, and I think actually it didn't survive very well. The structural things are very narrow, but just let us watch this kind of video first.
The National Health Service has been called the closest thing the British have to a religion. Ever since its creation in 1948, it's held a special place in the national psyche, and right from the beginning its workforce has been drawn from all over the world. The one thing most non-Brits know about the NHS is that it's free. So if you visit the doctor, it's free. If you need an operation, it's free. Having a baby is free. Parking at the hospital is... Actually, they charge you for parking at the hospital. But if you get hit by a car and need to go to hospital by ambulance, it's free. While the NHS may be free to use, it's not actually free. Next year's health budget will be something like £140 billion. The total cost works out to about £2,000 per year per person, which sounds a lot, but it's actually quite low by international standards. In the US, for example, per capita healthcare spending is more than double that. The NHS may be one of the most efficient health services in the world, but it's also a sprawling entity. UK-wide, there is a baffling array of NHS bodies, over 500 clinical commissioning groups, Health boards and hospital trusts, about 8,000 GP surgeries, plus the voluntary sector, private providers, and others. It also has numerous separate bodies for regulation, training, and strategy. Ooh, where was I? If that sounds like a system sorely in need of reform, that is the reformed version. The product of a 2012 Act of Parliament designed to give much more power to doctors in deciding how the money gets spent. In fact, the whole history of the NHS is a series of compromises between politicians and doctors. When the Labour government first created the NHS in 1948, it was in the face of bitter opposition from the doctors' trade union, the British Medical Association. One leading member of the BMA at the time said the NHS was the first step, and a big one, towards national socialism, and called the health minister, Aneurin Bevan, a medical furor. Move forward to the present day, and doctors are barely more polite about their political paymasters. The current health secretary, Jeremy Hunt, has found that his name has become, unfortunately for him, rhyming slang for
to give them a 1% rise.
But if NHS history has been politically turbulent, it has also been packed with clinical advances. In 1958, polio and diphtheria vaccinations were rolled out nationally, drastically reducing deaths from these illnesses. In the 1960s, the contraceptive pill was given first to married women, then all women who wanted it. 1978 saw the world's first test tube baby being born. 1979, the first UK heart transplant. The 1980s saw pioneering use of keyhole surgery, and in 2002, the first gene therapy. But with glorious successes, there have also been terrible failures. In 2013, a report into appalling patient neglect at Stafford Hospital identified hundreds of vulnerable people who suffered at the hands of staff and called for a culture change in the NHS. Patients, the report said, were let down by a system that put cost-cutting and target chasing ahead of the quality of care. Winter brings the service's biggest challenges. Seasonal colds and flus can endanger the already sick. Staffing is stretched, and most non-hospital services close for the holidays. Hospital bed shortages are commonplace in winter. Despite these challenges, the NHS mostly works, and its founding principle remains a point of pride. Universal healthcare, free at the point of use.
I was really bad through middle school.
So this is the system of the universal healthcare system of the United Kingdom. We actually see about the benefits from the universal healthcare system. That is that the like very high price treatments like the CAR-T and the Zolgensma is actually can be approved by the universal healthcare system, and people have almost no price or very little price that can be affordable to be and actually the by other parts of the payments is coming from the funding of the healthcare system, but the problem is that actually the budget cutting and the many people has been rising because of the structures of the populations and also some of the other causes. This kind of system is going dying. So this was the article of the Guardian. I'll read about a few sentences. This was evident in the numbers of extra capacity beds opened across the world, across the NHS to relieve the winter pressures that was still open at Easter. It was not at before. Well, the target used to be to treat 95% of the just emergency patients, but now it's only 76%. So we're seeing that this kind of universal healthcare system is dying, not only for just the United Kingdom, but also the South Koreas. We see that the decreases of the numbers of the residents, the doctors, to the current situations, the obstetrics, the general surgery, and cardiology and pediatrics. They are all the low-paid and very hard work. All the payments are decided by the national healthcare systems of the South Korea. That's the problematic, and we need to think about the governance of this kind of healthcare system and the new medicines to extend our human life and more live in more happy in a happy and a very have a liberties of the freedom of the walking around and also having nice conversations with the families. That's all giving from the health. So this is my end of the presentations, and we will gonna move on to the discussions of our presentations.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, all three of you. And maybe we'll take again a short break of 2 or 3 minutes that everybody digest. So short break here, and I'm gonna stop the recording. And here we are back after the break, ready to discuss and to share thoughts about the future of governance. And yeah, maybe you can share your slides, the final slide again. Yeah, by the way, I must say this has been very original thoughts, very original approach to the topic of the future of geopolitics last Monday and future of governance today. I'm very impressed. Yeah, let's now enter the discussion and open the floor, particularly for the students, for the participants in this course, and for the upcoming presenters. So why don't you all, everybody, turn on the camera? Yeah, either raise your hand or just unmute yourself and start commenting. Yes, AI is a huge topic these days, right? Everybody's doing AI, but few people really think about governance of AI. It's a very nice choice of topic to look into. And so those who listen to that presentation, do you have comments? So now I'm not asking for the presenters, but I'm specifically hoping for comments from the other student, from the other audience. Yes, also this was really truly asymptotic, right? Because when AI governance comes into play, that will be several decades into the future. Space governments is also maybe even centuries ahead. And the governance of new medicine and healthcare system, that's indeed a more and pressing issue. So you've covered also a very large time frame from it up to very far into the future. So here's one thought, just one thought to start the discussion. So the introducing general health care was a big step in every country, right? So in United Kingdom, it happened after Second World War. And I'm not really sure when it was introduced in Korea, but everybody agrees that this was a huge step, and particularly because those who are not so well off were now suddenly able to get proper health treatment, right? United States have struggled with this and still keep struggling, right? Obama tried to introduce Obamacare, but still basically healthcare is limited to those who have a stable job at least, right? Many jobs come with healthcare, But those who are unemployed, when they have, for example, diabetes, right? Yeah, they are out of luck, I'm afraid. So that's a very good step in human society development, general care. But the next step, and maybe that was and is inevitable, that people start accepting that healthcare system. So kind of medical tourism, and that this has happened in Korea, like maybe 10 years ago, when people were sick, they would just come to Korea and enjoy the free medical care without really having paid into the system. And that forced Korean governments to put a limit to that. So you have to, I'm not sure about the detailed regulation, but now you can, particularly as a foreigner, you cannot just come to Korea and get extensive surgery for free and then leave again, right? So the benefits of such a system started getting exploited. Also, doctors start exploiting the system. Start exploiting the system. That's the case in the United States, right, where hospitals charge excessive amounts for even simple procedures. So they're exploiting the system. And then there's the companies. That was a topic of the third presentation, who also exploit the system by charging excessive amounts for necessary treatment, right? So maybe all these steps, what I'm trying to say is maybe all these steps are an inevitable part of development in society. First, start to develop, to provide medical health care, and then people start to exploit that. Yeah, I'm not sure what is going to be the next step, but this seems kind of looking backward, seems kind of a natural way, right? So maybe, and okay, here I'm going out on a lip. The next step is universal health care throughout the world, right? So why do people come to Korea for healthcare? Because the healthcare system here is very cheap, and secondly, it is very good, right? So let's make it very attractive for people living in the, let's say, United States, when they have a important surgery, expensive surgery upcoming, then they just fly over to Korea. So it's the imbalance between the health systems that fuels this kind of exploitation. But when the healthcare system, let's just suppose it's all the same in every country, then there's no need for such kind of exploitive tourism. And then, yeah, if we can make kind of healthcare like a basic human right, like right to vote, or the right to education. So maybe it's an approach to solve this problem, to establish a roughly same level for every country. And that's something, of course, that needs to be approached on a global level, not by local governments only. Comments? Yeah, this is getting a little bit awkward. Amin, you pardon me, but in the past sessions you have always had the courage to say some very good thoughts. Are you willing to step in?
I don't have much to say, but I agree with what you said about if healthcare becomes like a human right, people wouldn't be forced to resort to medical tourism. Did you hear me?
I'm having some computer problems right now.
Okay. I agree with what you said. If medical care becomes like human rights for everyone, people wouldn't be forced to resort to medical tourism.
Okay. Thank you. Yes. Further comments? How about space exploration, right? In space, all the major forces, right? Remember on we had presentations about politics of the major, right? And currently, big powers in the world, like United States and Russia and China, they are defined by geological boundaries, right? So the United States are basically isolated. We said they cannot be conquered. China is a very large country, guys, an entire continent. Russia is very big. So they are separated by yeah, geographical means, but when they all space, then they all meet in space, right? And that's maybe we already saw that today is going to create conflict, or when the boundaries are removed in space, then the conflict becomes existing conflicts start to develop into something dangerous. So it was an important aspect pointed out today about exploration, and the United States explicitly saying that the purpose of NASA is to develop a military for space wars, namely to prevent China from destroying United States satellites, right? I'm not sure whether China is actually aiming for doing that, right? Remember in the Cold War, United States claimed that they defended themselves against a Russian attack and thus started to develop nuclear weapons, but Russia never had intention of conquering the States during the Cold War. So it was just a pretense for United States, or paranoia of United States, to develop a nuclear weapons program, claiming that they need this program in order to defend. Yeah, that's a common thing about military. They always say they need to defend against aggressors, but the United States never defended. They always, yeah, that's imperialism. They always went into countries like Afghanistan, right? So maybe claim that NASA needs to develop base weapons to prevent China from destroying US satellites. Maybe that's just a pretense, and the reality is that United States starting kind of space, or starting to trying to establish military as well. Any thoughts on that? Yes, Amen. Thank you.
Okay. Since the Cold War was a struggle between both sides as they wanted to emerge triumphant without ever getting into an actual war, they tried to find ways of beating each other, right? So this was manifested in this space race. Like, for example, NASA's mission was in many ways a military mission. But these days, I think that the political climate has changed and the space race is becoming less of a political issue.
Interesting. Okay, yes. And how about now someone else? Yeah, this is not supposed to be a dialogue between me and Amen. So someone else step in? Okay, anyway, we're running out of time. So let's wrap things up by thanking everyone again, the presenters and the participants in the discussion. Thank you very much. And now I'm going to stop the recording.